Let's get things started! This hand of mine glows with an awesome power!
Greetings once again, my friends. I am the announcer guy, but I'm also Drak. I'm having a serious identity problem right now. But joining me is also Andrea, who is not having an identity problem right now. Are you tired of me speaking as if I have an eye patch? I don't know if I can stop. Will this be okay? Because let's get things started. No, I'm kidding. Welcome back to the G Gundam podcast, because I don't know how to name things, and now it's just stuck. You know, we're almost done with this series. I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna Fuggit. Fuck it. I'm just gonna go with it. Andrea, how you doing?
Good.
So we have now finished episodes 37 through 40. And after this, things are starting to heat up, and I think they're kind of setting things up for the not just the battle royale, but for the wrapping up of the series, which I'm going to say right off the bat, the episodes that we got, they were all pretty impactful. Would I be wrong about that? Like, all of them were pretty much had something relevant that was going on there. We didn't have really any side character development. We just had lots of edge of your seat action, as well as edge of your seat kind of reveals. So
yeah,
I mean, am I wrong about that? Or
no?
I like that you're just so short, sweet, and to the point. So should we just go ahead and get into these episodes here?
Oh yes, we should.
All right. Well, your favorite Gundam is coming up next, because we are going to be talking about episode 37, Saisaishi's new attack, Blazing Dragon Gundam. So, in case people don't remember from the previous episode, which that's a really bad case of amnesia, you might want to have a doctor check that out. Wang Yongfa has put DOMON into a series of matches, basically to try and break his winning streak, and all of them are with Shuffle Alliance members. So we've already had Chibity, where they actually had probably the best fight they've ever had. We had George break every law as a knight to fight DOMON. Mm-hmm. And now it's Saisaishi's turn. Now, this is one I must admit we probably both are looking forward to, because, I mean, every fight involving Dragon Gundam has been amazing. So at that point, I mean, you could technically say that about Bolt Gundam, but I would say that as far as action is concerned, Saisaishi's probably up there a little bit more. Because there have been Argo episodes that are kind of not really a whole lot happening. But at least with Saisaishi, Dragon Gundam gets involved, it's good, right?
Right.
I think we can both state that. So it's time for Saisaishi to face off against Domon Kashu. And they literally start things off with Saisaishi sleeping in. Because that's how you want to start this? What? So Zuisen and Keiyun try to wake him up, but he is so used to them trying to wake him up the hard way that he just basically escapes into the rafters to try and find a place to sleep, and instead falls through the ceiling boards into Zuisen and Keiyun's room and discovers a mystery letter from his father. It's labeled to Zuisen and Keiyun, but it's from his father. Now, if people remember from the Cecile episode, he's been an orphan for as long as he can remember, so he doesn't know his mom and he doesn't know his dad. So he reads this, and the whole mystery around this episode is basically surrounded by what was in that letter, because after that, we see a dramatic change in behavior. Or I'll use Keiyun's own words, a drastic change in behavior drastic change in behavior with Saisaishi. He's, instead of lazing about, he's devoted. He's doing his training. He's ready and committed to be able to do his very best towards the revival of the Shaolin Temple. And he's looking. I'm not saying he wasn't looking forward to his match before, but he was approaching it the same way Saisaishi usually does approach things,
which is like a childish way.
Lazy, yeah,
and
a Saisaishi lazy kind of way. Like, because his original approach was like, all I got to do is stay calm and everything will go fine, right? Then he reads this letter and now he's like super committed.
And taking it more serious.
Yeah, this is like the most serious we've seen Saisaishi this entire series.
Like he just grew up or something. Almost.
Well, I guess the one question I have for you is when I first saw this episode, it was really disheartening because it was so out of nowhere that I literally went like, okay, where'd the pod go? Because I need to have the same annoying Saisaishi back. Like, were you welcoming the change or was it freaky like it was for me?
It was strange.
I was kind of on Kayun's side. It was like, wow, that is a huge turn. And it gets even weirder because, well, so Allenby once again is out helping Domon train for the upcoming battle. And Rain decides to come by, and she is visibly frustrated with the fact that Allenby is once again down with Domon. I believe she called the burning Gundam a piece of junk.
Oh.
Well, Domon I don't think Domon reacted to it, but it's very clear she's visibly frustrated with seeing Allenby with Domon again.
Hanging around all the time.
Is it safe to say the jealousy is starting to build a little bit?
I think so, because now she seems like, why are you hanging around so much? Should you be...
Yeah, exactly, and that's kind of how she's talking about it. She's like, "Oh, Allenby, you're here, like you are every day, for however many hours, and don't you have to go back to work with your crew?" And apparently, the crew doesn't care about it. She kind of brushes that off, but Rain's visibly very frustrated by seeing Allenby again. Then they run into Saisaishi, who decides to have a Looney Tunes moment. And he's waving to Bro, but at the same time, his bike hits something. I believe it was Allenby or something like that, where all the groceries start flying into the air, and then he catches them all on the bike, except his giant pan hits him on the head, and then all the groceries fall.
I thought he hit something, but not Allenby or Domon.
I can't remember what he hit. Like a rock in the road or something like that.
Something.
We get to have a Looney Tunes moment with Saisaishi. It was kind of cute. But it just so happens that Saisaishi's down there because he is going to cook dinner for Domon. What?
Well, that was nice.
Chibity didn't do that.
Well, I guess apparently...
George didn't do that. But, if you remember, Chibity and George showed him a new technique that they learned in the Guiana Highlands. And from what we can tell, there isn't a new technique that Saisaishi gained from the Guiana Highlands, but, maybe there is something different about him as he wants to show respect towards Domon, and he wants to make sure that Domon can give his absolute best in their match in the next day. So that's the reason that you get, and he's very polite and cordial while he's doing this. But you could tell he's very deep in thought a few times. To which Allenby's response to this is to egg him on to fighting her. I don't think she understands how tact works or basic table manners. Or the fact that she might have been hungry. Because she challenges him to a fight, he accepts. And they fight basically all over the harbor. Like, it's kind of like Spider-Man Far From Home, that neighborhood scene where he's like trying to chase something, but he's going through all the neighbors' houses. And they're going to all the houseboats, and everybody's eating dinner, and is just like, oh, well, I guess we got a show here. And then they'll move on to another boat.
It's like, oh, we got a dinner show here.
Yeah. And it's actually kind of cool. Something changes, though, where Allenby starts to heat things up, and in response, Saisaishi looks like he's powering up for something, but then abruptly stops. So we don't know what that is. All we know is that it's got like this green aura around him, and
I thought it was gold.
It was green.
Oh, okay.
It was green. And so all of a sudden, okay, he stops that, but it's like, what was that? Even Domon sees it. And what's even better is while all this is going on, again, we see a very visibly frustrated Rain just sitting there and eating and just not understanding fighting at all. I love this trait where when you get to see the angry boyfriend of the girlfriend where they're just chugging down food and you can't see their face. It's just like, I don't get all this fighting. I love those moments. They're hilarious to me. Because to me, it's always kind of a visibly, I'm jealous or I'm frustrated with whomever I'm paired up with. So we got to have that moment. But as they end the fight, due to Saisashi holding back, and they get ready to head back to go eat some dinner, in one of the family houseboats, they see on the TV that Neo-China's emperor has landed in Neo-Hong Kong and will be observing the match between both Dragon Gundam and Burning Gundam. And that shocks the hell out of Saisashi. He has to leave right away. We cut to the Neo-China embassy where Saisashi, Zuisen, and Keiyun all meet the Emperor. And, the Emperor kind of gives that usual speech of, like, we're very proud of you. You've been able to do so much in this Gundam fight. And is there anything... Basically, it leads up into, is there anything that I, the Emperor, can do for you? And out of nowhere, Saisashi says, can you please consider reviving the Shaolin Temple, which again kind of rocks Zuisen and Keiyun to their core.
Mm-hmm.
And so and it also rocks the Emperor, might I say. Like, he's kind of speechless by this. He only says that he'll consider what Saisashi has said, but he doesn't get any guarantees of it. But Zuisen and Keiyun are both like, why are you doing this? And Keiyun's visibly distraught by it. Like, he's just like, this drastic change has really gone too far. I mean, are you in agreement with Keiyun at this point? It's a drastic change. It's an absolutely drastic change.
Were they just surprised that he would ask that?
Yeah, well, if you think about Saisashi, he's very materialistic. He could have just asked for a new bike or something like that.
True.
Of the Emperor, but instead he actually asked for what he's been fighting so hard to get. Which up until this point has, I mean, if you don't see it this way, let me know. But this has really been more Zuisen and Keiyun's goal than Saisashi's. Saisashi's just a kid.
True.
He's not really invested in this that much, but obviously now he is. So it's definitely a drastic change. And even Domon's kind of admitting that, yeah, this is going to be an epic fight, and he doesn't know what he's walking into. We cut to the next day, where we're at the Neo-China embassy again, and Zuisen and Keiyun look like they're getting ready to go with Saisashi to the ring, but they instead say that they're going to stay back and they're going to pray for Saisashi's victory. So he heads out to go prep Dragon Gundam, but they both go to... Keiyun goes to pray in the temple, and then also Zuisen goes out to pray at a waterfall to ensure Saisashi's victory. I should also mention that before this happens, Saisashi goes into the temple to pray and leaves the letter that he found on the hand of the Buddha statue, which I believe is customary as saying, like, please grant me this blessing. I'm not 100% though. I'm not too well versed in Buddhism. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to say that that's how that works or not. But the fight engages. We also see the Neo-China Emperor is watching with bated breath as this fight begins, and it's about pretty much what we thought it was going to be for the rematch. It's immediately engaged. They're both at a very good pace with each other. They're both countering each other's moves. And all the while, we have like this montage going on of fight moves between Dragon and Burning Gundam, and Zuisen and Keiyun praying in their respective places for Saisashi to become the victor. Except at one of those flashes, Keiyun notices the letter that is in the hand of the Buddha statue. And this basically confirms everything he's been... This confirms the drastic change in behavior with Saisaishi to him. So he runs out to go find Keiun and shows that, this is what has caused the behavior shift. Zuo-sen's in agreement. So they immediately go down to the ring to see how things are going. And it's not going so well for Saisaishi. By this point, Burning Gundam has destroyed both of Dragon Gundam's arms. It's also destroyed the ponytail dagger that caused the draw the last time they fought. And for some reason, when he destroyed that, it undid the thing in his hair, and his hair is just like free flowing at this point.
That was weird.
Right? Because I didn't think that would be part of the fight suit. Well, I don't know what happened there, but yeah, okay. So we have to have his hair all out everywhere. And actually, in my opinion, that kind of hurts a lot of the reaction shots with Saisaishi because his hair's all over the place. He looks very unkempt. And it's just like, I'm having trouble getting into the drama here because of this.
Well, at least it didn't stay like that throughout the rest of the fight.
No, it didn't. But at this point, Saisaishi has basically said, I have no choice. I have to win this at all costs. And we start to get like this I want to go over this first before we go into what is happening in the middle of that. We start to have like a monologue going on of what was in the letter, where he learns more about his dad. His dad was basically dedicated his whole life to the revival of the Shaolin Temple, and this is his will. This is his last letter, where he's saying, like, I'm going to fail at this. We couldn't do this in my lifetime. But hopefully we can pass this on to the next generation, and my son can finish what I started. And so we start to notice that Saisaichi's got a lot of respect for his dad, and he wants to help his dad achieve his dream, which then causes his... This is supposed to be the Guiana Highlands move, like, this is the bursting machine gun punch for Saisaishi, but we're guessing he learned it through the will, as he then activates his hyper mode, and he starts doing the same move he was doing before, except now he's all gold. That's why you were thinking it was gold, is because he was doing it in the hyper mode, and engages I'm not going to say what this is. I will give you guys my nickname in a minute. The Shin Ryusei Kochoken. He engages this ability, which basically sprouts these green butterfly wings on Dragon Gundam. And it's an interesting stance and everything like that. This is why I like to call it Dragon Gundam Butterfly Mode. Because, yeah, I mean...
I wonder why a butterfly wings, though.
I don't know either. But what's interesting is the Emperor immediately recognizes the attack and points out something that none of us know, which is that this particular ability is a kamikaze move. So Saisaishi is willing to give his life to achieve his father's goals and is willing to kill Domon in order to do it, as well as himself. Basically, Saisaichi's going into if I'm going to hell, I'm taking you with me kind of deal. And I want to stop there for a minute. When you've heard that, like, did it immediately become very frightening what this ability was?
I am just kind of shocked that he...
I remember watching this the first time and hearing the Emperor say that. I'm like, what? Are they actually going to show a kid killing himself on this show? And at that point, like, I'm kind of where you are in the first run of G Gundam, where I like Saisaishi. Mm-hmm. He's annoying as crap, but he's one of the few fighters I've been able to latch onto. Because when I watched it the first time, I wasn't entirely a fan of Domon either. In fact, I wasn't really a fan of any of them. Saisaishi I liked just because, he was probably the more whimsical of the five. But then they all of a sudden say, like, oh, yeah, he can kill himself with this move, but he'd take Domon with him. So, that's shocking, but Domon counters it because he doesn't want Saisaishi to end it this way. So he then counters the move. I can't remember what exactly he does, but he somehow stops it, and just before, or he somehow stops the attack, but just before we're guessing whatever suicide attack happens, the Emperor declares or demands that the match be stopped.
Well, yeah, wasn't he going to use the burning finger with his other
That's
hand?
right, yeah. So, no, he had used the burning finger. He was about to heat end. And that was what was going to destroy Dragon Gundam.
Mm. Well, yeah, but didn't Dragon Gundam destroy his right hand? But
he
then
destroyed one. Yeah, he destroyed one hand, and then the
using...
other one came in with a burning finger, and that was the one he was going to heat end with.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Emperor demands the match be stopped, and that immediately catches Saisai's attention. And immediately he says, "I will grant your request, but you must win the battle royale. You must win for Neo China, and then I will revive the Shaolin Temple." And both Zuixen and Keiyun are ecstatic about this. Saisaishi's to the point of tears with this, and Domon is just trying to get Saisaishi back on his feet. While this is going on, we also have a scene happen with Wan Yunfa and Master Asia, where Master Asia is in total respect for how this match has gone and how it ended. Wong is not so much in that department. He's just getting pissed that Domon keeps winning. And he's getting so irritated about this, like, you can kind of start seeing the wheels turn in his head. He needs to start rigging the game at that point. And Master Asia, goes over his usual stuff of, "You just don't understand the true nature of a martial artist." And during their argument, for some reason, Master Asia starts sputtering, coughing, goes down to his knees, and Wang Yufa decides to make fun of him and then walks off. And so it's starting to show like a legit discourse between Wang and Master Asia, but also that Master Asia has something going on. Some kind of illness, or maybe old age is catching up to him. We're not sure what. But this is not, this is the second time I think we've seen this, where he just starts coughing out of nowhere. And that promptly ends the episode. So
I can't remember the first time when he was starting to cough.
It was the first time that him and Wong had an argument.
Probably.
Post when Schwartz discovered the Dark Gundam.
That's probably.
But I think he also coughed when the Gundam had emerged and Domon and him got into an argument. So he coughed there too. So this would be like the third time. Final thoughts on Saisaishi's new attack, Blazing Dragon Gundam. Now, here's another thing that I want to do here, because we've done it with the other two fights. Compared to the first time Saisaishi and Domon Kashu fought against each other, would you rate this fight as better or worse than that? Now, for Chimney and George, that was a clear difference. But what about Saisaishi? Because you and I both ended up liking their first fight.
I thought this one was better.
I would say it's notably better.
Well, yeah. Because that was even a more close call there.
I just like the fact that it was a legit knockdown, drag out fight, because they were countering each other up until a point. Saisaishi looks the more damaged, but you can't say that he's not laid a finger on Domon. Like you just kind of pointed out, he countered a burning finger and destroyed Domon's arm. Domon is very visibly damaged by this. He's just not as damaged as Dragon Gundam. Dragon Gundam has no arms. He doesn't have the ponytail anymore. His legs can barely function. Like, he looks more battered and broken, but Burning Gundam was a little worse for wear, too, at that point. So, I like this fight, and in fact, it's probably one of my favorites overall in the series, because this not only took what the first fight they had, but then it took it up to 11 And it did everything we liked about that fight, plus it also incorporated dramatic elements that we saw between Dragon and Bolt Gundam, and it was awesome, in my opinion. Like, they both knew each other so well that they could counter each other's moves, and there were legit points where you couldn't tell who was going to win. The only other time I will say up until this point we've had is the rematch with Chimity, where there was actual moments where it's like, DOMON might not be able to pull this off. That's kind of my viewpoint on it. But overall, I like the build up to it. I like what they tried to do with Saisai's character development. It's probably, in my opinion, the most legit character development that Saisai has gotten in this entire series. And he's no longer the cute, cuddly comic relief character. You know, you're invested in his cause, and you want to be able to see him succeed where his father wasn't able to do it. So I like this episode. Aside from the fight, what did you think of the build up and all that?
I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, I'm very happy with how this episode went.
Especially now that he's like, okay, there's like, you know, like he thought it was just, oh, this is just something I have to do to win, just to revive this thing. But now he knows it's much more than just supposedly like an obligation, but it was more like he's doing it for his father.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
And it's not like he, you know, like you kind of said, it's not an obligation to Zuisen and Keiyun. He's doing it for himself because he wants to be that much closer to his dad.
Yeah.
And so like that gets the viewers invested too. If you were to rate this episode, what would you rate it?
I would rate this as a 5 for me.
I'd be right there with you too. This is honestly one of my favorite series or episodes in the series. Because it took what was already an awesome matching up when they first fought and just amped everything up and made it worthwhile, made awesome stakes, made legitimate character development for both of them. Because DOMON, like, I want to say DOMON also had some character development moments in it as well, because he was already kind of there anyway. Like, he obtained a serene state of mind, and so this was kind of Saisai obtaining his serene state of mind. And that's appropriate because, you know, we got the hyper mode. So yeah, I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 5. Mm-hmm. It's right up there with Dragon Gundam versus Bolt Gundam. It's really well done. So the next episode that we have is the final Shuffle Alliance member, DOMON versus Argo, charging Bolt Gundam. And I'm not going to say that it's as good as what came before it. So I'll explain this as we go along, but I feel Argo got shafted this episode. He really did. So again, Wang Yunfa is pissed. He has put every obstacle in DOMON's way, and DOMON continues to win. And it's just getting worse and worse, but we'll get to that in a minute because the fight literally starts up with a rematch between Bolt Gundam and Grizzly Gundam. So Andrew Graham has another chance to kill Argo Gulski out of revenge. And yes, he still is seeking vengeance against Argo Gulski. And we're all kind of wondering why, because we thought all of this was resolved, but not to Andrew. Not to Andrew. And it actually is a pretty good fight. It showcases both as being legit threats and also both being strength powerhouses. In fact, one of my favorite moments of it, and I still have like this what the F moment whenever I see it, is Bolt Gundam like being pinned down and Grizzly Gundam has him like in an arm bar. And Bolt Gundam stands up with Grizzly Gundam on his arm and throws him off.
That's just like, how?
It's just like, holy shit. Like, Argo just he cannot afford to lose. We heard that a lot in these episodes. And then we find out his Guyana Highlands move as he brings out Bursting Gaia Crusher. And this is way different than I think a lot of people thought it was going to be. For example, when I saw this the first time, I had played a PlayStation game called Gundam Battle Assault 2. where you could play as the G Gundams as well as a variety of others. And Bolt Gundam's super move in that, like the super hyper move, is the Graviton Hammer. It's the hammer and mace, or the beam mace, and hammering that down. And instead, what happens here is Argo goes gold into hyper mode and punches the ground, and immediately just spikes of earth just start shooting up everywhere. And it then surrounds and kind of isolates Grizzly Gundam. He can't move anywhere. And it's pretty much declared that Argo is the winner of this fight because he's been able to subdue Andrew. But Andrew is not taking it. He's still very much obsessed with revenge. And yeah, that's how that match ends. But DOMON notices the new ability, and it's frightening that this ability is learned by Argo. But back to Wong Yunfa. Wong is still looking for a way to punish DOMON. And he does have Argo Golski coming up, so he decides to hedge his bets a little bit and sets up the final Shuffle Alliance member to be a tag match. What? We had all of these epic fights between Chibity and DOMON and George and DOMON and Saisaishi, for crying out loud. Argo doesn't get a one-on-one bout with DOMON? Well, he does, but we'll get to that in a minute. They have to do some finagling, but like, what did you think of that? He got shafted.
I know, and especially, well, the battle was kind of unexpected, but since when are they going to decide to do a tag battle? Yeah.
Why you didn't give that opportunity to the others? Why is Argo the one that gets that has to have that doesn't get the one-on-one match? The hell? And what's worse about it is, so here's the tag match. DOMON once again is teaming up with Allenby in Noble Gundam.
I wonder why they decided that pair.
We'll find out in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
But then we find out Argo's partner, and it's Andrew Graham of Neo Canada. It almost looks like this entire match is stacked up against Argo. His partner is the man that wants to kill him for the death of his wife.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I thought you were trying to... Wong, seriously, you're doing this wrong. You were stacking the deck. You're supposed to be stacking the deck against DOMON, not against Argo.
You might as well have put Andrew Graham with DOMON.
Argo's off in the corner just like, I have just been here smelling pretty flowers. Why do you have such hate boner from me? Like, seriously. And you can't blame him. But yeah, so this is the matchup. Burning Gundam and Noble Gundam versus Bolt Gundam and Grizzly Gundam. And even DOMON is afraid that Andrew is going to turn on Argo. And so at that point, he then goes to the Neo Canada embassy, which is a giant forest. Because why not? And in the middle of the woods, a log cabin.
Why the heck not?
Well, that's what they're about, eh? And he goes to confront Andrew and states, like, we know what happened to your wife. Why can you not just let this go? You have to team up with Argo. And so we find out that the reason that Andrew doesn't believe the story is because it came from Neo Russia. All of the testimony and all that is from Neo Russia. And so as far as he is concerned, they could have covered something up, which is kind of a logical argument. Like, they did actually use very deceptive tactics in the beginning, where they would lure people into that remote Russian town and steal their Gundams. You know, like, the deceit and deception is kind of something we already know Neo Russia to do. I mean, would we put it past Nastasha to fabricate evidence? Yes, no, what?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, would you believe if somebody told you that Neo Russia's rep basically fabricated her testimony
Possibly.
to make it sound like Argo was a good guy.
Possibly.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, there is a little bit of logic in this argument, and even Domon kind of acknowledges it. But Domon has kind of a good answer to it. If you still believe that he did this, watch him fight. Watch him communicate with his fist, because remember, this is the mantra that happens throughout this whole arc, is martial artists only know how to communicate effectively or truly show their feelings through their fists. Watch Argo, and tell me that he still did this. He killed your wife. And so that leaves Andrew with something to think about. In the meantime, though, Argo's kind of going through a tough deal, because Neo-Russia has decided we're going to continuously remind Argo of why he's fighting. And so they actually, in his cell, start projecting holograms of his space pirate friends and showing that they're imprisoned because of him and that he has to win. And Nastasha kind of comes in and says, look, I know what they're doing, and I told them not to. I told them they didn't need to do this, but they're doing it. And you could actually start to see her feeling really bad about what they're doing to Argo. And you kind of feel bad about Argo, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, he doesn't need a reminder, and he certainly doesn't need Neo-Russia messing with his head in order to get this going. But, yeah, that's happening. And then finally, that evening, Argo is let out of his cell. He doesn't really know why until he goes out to the harbor where, wow, Nastasha's in a... Oh, jeez. I mean, I know I'm married to you, but she was pretty smoking hot in that outfit.
It's just so
like, we're used to her in the military uniform.
I know, it's just so unusual
but then,
seeing her.
wowza, she cleans up real nice. I would actually dare say this probably was as risque, if not more, than her skinny dipping. I mean, it's like, whoa. I mean, you're telling me the slit on that dress goes how high? And basically, it looks like date night for Argo.
It just seems very weird.
Well, explain to me why you think it's weird.
I don't know. She's supposed to be the warden.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, like, if she's
and
going
she's
on...
giving him a candlelight dinner?
Oh my gosh, that just seems weird.
Well, we do actually kind of find the reason for it.
Oh,
because Neo-Russia is once again messing with Argo, and the ship that is carrying his friends is right above him. And Argo's pissed at that, but Nastasha tries to encourage him, don't worry about that. Go into your fight. I will do my best to be able to watch your back, but until then, enjoy this evening. Like, she's not eating anything. In fact, Argo basically eats all the dinner.
That must have been...
Hey, he's a big guy.
That must have been one good fish.
It really was, because he just basically grabbed it up and went, he didn't even worry about the fish bones. Holy crap. That's Argo for you.
Mm-hmm.
I love fish. I can swallow fish bones. So we cut to the next day and the match. And it also looks like Allenby and Domon have kind of a silent agreement that she will basically make it so that Argo and Domon can have their fight, and she'll take on Andrew. What they don't know is that Bolt Gundam Argo also has a plan for this, and right as the match begins, Argo immediately pulls out the Gaia Crusher and cuts the arena in half. So now it's guaranteed. Noble Gundam versus Grizzly Gundam, and Bolt Gundam versus Burning Gundam, which now kind of makes up for the hype here, because we were all like, really? You're gonna do that? And now they have their one-on-one match, and it's looking really good, and they're both keeping pace very, very well with this. But now I have to backpedal a little bit, because this is going to play into this portion of the episode. Dr. Belliman, who is the brainwave person in charge of Allenby's brainwaves for the Berserker system, it turns out that he gets summoned by Wang Yunfa out of nowhere. He doesn't really know why, and we cut to sometime later in the evening, we cut to a moment where Dr. Belliman has basically been taken prisoner, and he's waking up in the room that he's in, and he's noticing something very familiar in front of him, and it's the Berserker system, but it's not his Berserker system. So he's the doctor who developed it, and this is not of Neo-Sweden technology. And that's when Wang Yunfa shows up and states, okay, can you show me how to make this work? Because I need to be able to get the frequency for Alan B's brainwaves so that he can activate the Berserker system. And Dr. Belliman says no, like he tries to help her out, but then Wong resorts to torture. And eventually, poor Dr. Belliman, he gives up the frequency. And so that affects this fight. Another thing that affects things is the relationship between Master and Wong is getting worse. So much so that it looks like Domon was going to be a candidate for something that they had planned along the way, and now Wong doesn't want to use Domon because he's so pissed at Domon. Instead, it looks like now he wants to use Allenby. So what does this have to play into? Wong activates the Berserker system, while Andrew is watching the fight between Bolt Gundam and Burning Gundam, and he is watching them communicate with their fists, and then he finally remembers that even though we've seen this scene a couple of times now, for some reason they decided to add that Argo had tears in his eyes when he turned around to save Andrew. And so now Andrew knows he did try to save his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't really matter much, because now a Berserk Noble Gundam is coming to take his head. And she goes nuts on Grizzly Gundam, to the point where she is, like, they basically have turned the Berserker system up to full, and she is just hammering into Grizzly Gundam, so much so that by the end of this episode, Grizzly Gundam is, like, Andrew is seriously hurt. Alan B is passed out because of the Berserker system, and Domon and Argo are trying basically to pick up the pieces. And even though the fight between Argo and Domon is awesome, we now have this aftermath of... Oh, I remember what happened. Noble Gundam actually pierced the cockpit of Grizzly Gundam.
Yeah.
And that's what caused Andrew to get gravely injured. And that's how things kind of end for the episode. So, final thoughts for Domon versus Argo charging Bolt Gundam. And I want to kind of go over this, even though it wasn't really the focus of the episode. How would you rate the fight between Argo and Domon compared to the first fight they had?
It was, slightly better, but not
I would say it's satisfactory, but
it's not as good compared to the other fights we've had.
Yeah, and part of that is because of all the things taking away from this.
All the other side things going on.
Yeah, it feels like, maybe I'm the only one thinking this, but it feels like everything is building up to something, and they kind of forgot that they needed to build up for Argo just as much as they built up for Chibity, Saisaishi, and George. And that's kind of sad, because at this point, like, we both have been invested in Argo, and we want to see, like, what they do with this character.
I think if they probably never had that tag team battle, it would have gone better.
That's why I'm saying that, in my opinion, Argo gets shafted, because he gets the tag match, and now we have other things going on that kind of take away from the fight between Argo and Domon. One of which being Andrew, the other being Alan B, the other thing being the elevated tensions between Master and Wong. And it's kind of a fustercluck of all this buildup, and then you don't really get to have the payoff of Argo versus Domon. So if you were to score this, what would you score it?
I'll probably maybe a 4.
I'm kind of there too. I want to score it higher, but they just tried to put way too much in this episode. And I get it. They needed to set things up for the finals because they've been kind of teasing that after these, the finals are going to happen, or the final battle royale is going to happen.
Mm-hmm. I mean, some of this, even the side things were great and all, but put them all together in the same scene was just kind of...
Well, and then you had the Andrew subplot that was kind of interfering with that. It almost felt like Argo should have gotten a development episode where he could resolve things with Andrew, and he didn't get that. Instead, he got 10 minutes in an episode to do it.
Yeah. And just the whole tag team, it's like, it was kind of a waste, really. It's probably maybe I don't know if it could have been even worse than the other tag team that they had, because here you have Allenby who's trying to fight off the whole berserker thing, and you have Andrew just standing there watching. I mean,
yeah.
What was the point of them being there?
What was the point of the tag match, right?
Because it just seems like maybe it would have been a lot more interesting if maybe Andrew decided to...
I think, in all honesty, the reason that this thing got made a tag match from a writing perspective is that they needed something serious. They needed Allenby to do something seriously wrong.
Well, yeah.
And that's why they did this, but they could have done that in another episode. They could have done it in another way. And instead, yeah, you have that problem. Andrew's watching them, and Allenby is trying to fight off the berserker system. And yeah, unfortunately, I would actually say that because of that, Andrew and Allenby kind of suffer in this episode because nobody's invested in them. Everybody wants to see Argo versus DOMON.
And even then, you know, they had their few moments here and there, but it didn't seem like... It just seemed kind of strange having the other two. They're like, what? Why were they there?
I'll bet you for a lot of people, when they saw the stabbing at the cockpit, there was like, oh yeah, those two were in that fight. Because nobody was paying attention to them. They were all paying attention to...
I mean, Andrew could have just simply be in the side, like just anywhere in the audience, you know, watching just like everybody else.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they should have done a character development episode and had this happen first.
I mean, it was great and all that he was willing to step up and take the blow for Argo. But...
Yeah, because at this point he realizes that Argo's a good guy. But now it looks like, you know, he may be paying with his life. So that's already not cool.
That could have been probably a little bit.
But kind of like you, I have the same problem, is that, like, there was so much stuff built in here that the narrative, the storyline got so muddled that it was really hard to attach yourself to anything. And so at that point, the overall, like, this is probably one of those matches that a lot of people looked forward to, and it suffers because that's not the focus.
I mean, maybe it could have gone better if... I
mean, look at the other three where it has been the focus. You know, like George literally gave up being a knight. Like, he was willing to go to prison to face DOMON. And we got a really cool character development arc out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Saishi, we had all that stuff happen with his dad, and it was great. And Argo just kind of gets, oh, your friends are here. Yay. Although, I'm not going to knock Nastasha, because, whoo, that body. I'm buying you a dress like that. Because, yeah. Anyway, so, but I agree with you. Like, the reason that the score is down is because the episode ultimately suffers from all of the storylines going on. So let's go ahead and go into episode 39, The Ultimate Attack, Duel with Master Asia. And this is kind of an aftermath episode to what we've just barely seen. So once again, Allenby has seriously injured Andrew, and Allenby is passed out because of the berserker system. DOMON gets her out of the cockpit and is checking up on her when Rain comes in to see if anybody needs medical attention. By the time she gets there, Argo is screaming for DOMON to help him with Andrew. And so he goes over there and he's like, I'm trusting you with Allenby, okay? And she starts helping out Allenby, and then the rescue team comes in to pick up Allenby. And Rain's like, you know, I'll go with you guys. I can help out with this. They're like, nope, we got to get them out of here. This does not concern you, ma'am. And so Rain, I actually want to argue here. She didn't really fight that hard about not going onto the transport that they had. she actually, like, she's very dismissive of the fact that they're the first aid team, and she's like, okay, well, yeah, fine, whatever. Instead of going, well, I'm a doctor, I can help you out. We can perform triage on her while we're going, kind of thing. She didn't really fight that hard for it, and that'll come into play later. What's interesting, though, is that, you know, this looks like a pretty big transport, but they only come to get Allenby. They haven't gotten Andrew. They say that there's another one coming to get Andrew. It's just like, that jet or that plane looks bigger than, or big enough to hold the two of them.
Yeah, it would be kind of strange to be picking up only one person.
I mean, like, I can see where, because I've seen people make the argument of, like, ambulances look like they could fit two people, but then you have to see all of the supplies that are in an ambulance, and it's like, no, you could only really have one. But this thing, like, it looked way big. Like, you could probably fit both pilots on there, and they only take Allenby, and then that's it. And so, at that point, everybody rushes to the hospital. Argo rushes to the hospital for Andrew. Domon goes with Argo and also with Rain to go see if they could also find Allenby. And it's looking like a very grim situation overall. But here's the problem. While Andrew is at the hospital and he's receiving surgery at that given moment, Allenby never made it to the hospital. And Domon is pissed. Absolutely pissed. Where is Allenby? And unfortunately, Domon is thick-headed enough that usually whenever he's this mad, the person he sees first is the one that gets the brunt of the punishment.
Mm-hmm.
And this time is no exception, because he takes out everything on Rain. Including the stuff that I kind of brought up where, like, she could have fought a little harder to get onto that transport. I get why she didn't. And I you know, they were pretty abrasive with her. I think they still would have fought her. But, you know, she could have fought a little harder. But instead, he's basically saying that she abandoned Allenby and that she's never liked Allenby. And so therefore, like, she wanted Allenby to get kidnapped or whatever. Basically saying, like, you wanted... I don't want to say, like, he didn't say it this way, but he basically, you wanted Allenby to die, didn't you? Kind of thing. And he's so mad at Rain after yelling at her so hard, he just decides, okay, I'm going to go look for Allenby, and I'm going to do it on my own. I don't need your help. Which basically sets Rain on a very distraught kind of path. She is very much in shock over what's happened, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of want to bounce back to this, like, not necessarily that the Domon was too hard on her, but do you think that if she fought a little bit harder, she could have gotten onto that transport?
I'm sure she could have, but it just seemed like she just did not know what was the best thing to do.
Yeah, she kind of looked like a deer in the headlights with a lot of this stuff. And I think it gets so bad that Domon, like, questions her abilities as a doctor, and he takes out all his frustrations on Rain.
I mean, I know she seemed like jealous of her, but I don't think she would. And
it's kind of projected that Domon thinks that because of this is why she didn't fight as hard to.
But I don't think she would have just, like, say, well, good luck with her, you know?
Yeah, I don't think she would have abandoned her, but she didn't necessarily. But I will make the concession that, yeah, she didn't really fight that hard. But yeah, but now kind of to this, was Domon too hard, or was he the right kind of hard in this case? Like, when you were seeing this happen, did you want to punch Domon? Did you just want him to stop? Like, what was going on through your head?
I think he was just blowing it out of proportion.
Yeah.
Especially, it's like, how would she know that they were not actually true paramedics?
Yeah, because, like, they're wearing all the appropriate gear and they're coming out of the transport.
Anyone could have been fooled.
Yeah, like, that's the one thing that I like from other series that have done kidnappings like this, is that this is kind of the natural way to react. Like, you see the medical team and they're in their uniforms and they're in an ambulance, you trust that they're the medical team. Oh, wait, they're the kidnappers. You don't know at that point.
Plus,
so it's kind of hard to be mad at Rain for that.
Yeah, but it's also kind of like one of those things you have to question. It's like, why are you coming for one person and not sticking around just to check to make sure the other person's okay? Because what if the other person's more serious condition? They should be taking the one who's in the most dire need.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of just,
Allenby was not that person. At least we don't think she was. It was probably Andrew.
I mean,
because they're already talking about, like, he's in life-saving surgery right now.
Yeah, because, I mean, she could have just simply been passed out, whereas Andrew was probably more in critical condition that could have died. I mean, you would think that if they were true paramedics, they'd be kind of assessing both patients.
Yep, as people who play Among Us on YouTube would say, that's pretty sus. Pretty sus.
Because otherwise, you should be taking the person who's in the most critical.
But in a lot of cases, like, again, I don't blame Rain for this. She made the proper assumptions here, and she fell for it like everybody else did, kind of thing. So I kind of think DOMON was a little harsh with her.
I mean, if it was DOMON...
I mean, even Argo's kind of looking at this and going, dude, calm down. And that ought to tell you that DOMON's going too far. Is like, even Argo's like, dude, calm your tits. It's fine. We'll find her. But yeah, this kind of sets a big rift between DOMON and Rain. And all the while this is happening, while DOMON is looking for Allenby, he comes across Master Asia's horse, Funsaiki. Wait, I thought the mechanical thing was called Funsaiki. We'll get to that in a minute. The horse begs DOMON to ride it, so much so that they actually get on a boat, and the horse isn't freaking out that it's in the middle of the water.
It's weird how you have a horse.
Yeah, this is an unusually calm horse, and also unusually well-trained. That it was able to locate DOMON, probably by scent, and it was able to tell him, get on me, you know? And so it takes him to a remote island where DOMON is abruptly met by Master Asia, of all the people. I mean, dun, 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 you know, like that's not really a shocker there, but it looks like they're about to engage in a fight when then we cut to Wong in his office, and somebody has mentioned that Master Asia has made contact with DOMON, and Wong decides, okay, send a Gundam head out there. I mean, after all, we can justify that it was just a random Gundam head. It wasn't taken out there intentionally. So we can make it sound like an accident to Master. And while they're having their confrontation, the Gundam head attacks and forces both of them into what looks like an underground subway area. And unfortunately, because of the way they got there, Master is injured. He can't really walk that great. And so at that point, DOMON and him kind of both realize they need to get above ground. And they can't summon Gundams or anything like that because everything's too unstable. So they have to declare a truce to at least until they get back topside, and then they can have their fight. We've seen these kinds of episodes before. You have that temporary truce, and then once you get out of the situation, everything's back to normal. But they just want to do that what if. You know, what if Cobra soldiers worked with G.I. Joe, you know? All the while they're doing this, they're having conversations here and there, but as things become more unstable, DOMON kind of not necessarily enters a state of shock, but is getting frustrated by how things are kind of being stacked against them. And Master reminds him of a time when DOMON was being attacked by wolves, and it was a similar situation that looked like there was no hope, and that there was hope there because he pulls out the ultimate secret technique of the School of the Undefeated of the East, the Sekiha Tenkyoken. Try to say that 3 times fast.
I couldn't even
It is literally 2 words, Sekiha Tenkyoken.
I wouldn't be able to pronounce
So basically what it looks like is this giant fist then slaps whatever is in its way, and it's able to break walls and destroy wolves and all that. So it's just like, oh, okay, so this is, and it turns out this is the one technique that Master had not taught Domon yet before they became enemies. This was a distinct advantage that Master had over Domon, and we have not known about it until now. Well, that's kind of convenient, isn't it? So they continue on, and things start getting even worse. The tunnels start filling up with water and mud, and unfortunately Master's injured for the last time he did the Sekihaten Kyoken, so he'll need some help for this one. And he teaches Domon how to perform the Sekihaten Kyoken. And it's kind of an epic moment. You have some really cool music happening in the meantime, and they are actually able to take a building and kick it out of the subway and out into the ocean. You don't, guys, you don't fuck with Master Asia. You don't. He's been able to make laundry a verified weapon, and now buildings answer to his whim.
I don't know how he does that.
Oh, but shit gets weirder. So now they still have the Gundam head problem, and Master basically decides, okay, I'm going to get into Master Gundam, but then he says something that we didn't expect him to say. Come, Funsaiki! Become my legs as we fight together! And all of a sudden we notice this platform underneath Master Gundam. He jumps up, and then we see his horse get into a fight suit, and that's the horse that Master Asia has been riding in Master Gundam. The horse is in a damn fight suit! Just thoughts on that.
I don't know how that horse could stand that.
Well, apparently it did. I mean, this horse is super trained, all right? Because apparently it can deal with really tight stuff getting put all over its body. And so the horse is actually being operated by a horse.
Oh.
It's a horse, of course.
What's next?
I almost think the episode title should be "It's a Horse, of Course, Domon." So yeah, we all, like, a lot of people, including me, we all assume, like, okay, well, it's just like a mechanical horse that probably just responds to Master Gundam. Nope, there's a horse in there with a fight suit.
It's still
What?
I still find it weird that when Domon gets on the island in the first place and then the boat goes away with the horse.
And the horse is like, bye.
Wouldn't Domon be like, why is he going away? And
Right.
how am I going to get back home?
Well, and he's like, I guess you've got somewhere else to go. And it's like, no, not really. If you consider it, because his master's on the island with you, I'm going to go off and get a carrot.
Oh my gosh.
So, they then go into a fight with the Gundam heads where Master encourages Domon to finally master the Sekihaten Kyoken, and now we have a whole new finishing move with Domon where he uses the Sekihaten Kyoken with the burning finger. So, yeah. What did you think of that attack?
That was pretty epic.
I like the fact that it uses the projector, which has been showing the King of Hearts emblem, and then the sphere that it creates for the Sekihaten Kyoken, it actually kind of merges with the hologram, and then poof, and it's got the emblem of the King of Hearts on it. I will.
King of Hearts?
Yeah, like when the chest opens up, it shows the logo of the King of Hearts.
Okay.
And when the fireball goes out for Sekihaten Kyoken, you could see the emblem of the King of Hearts on it.
Yeah, almost. You say it so fast, it almost sounds like Kingdom Hearts. I'm like, what?
Yeah, probably. But yeah, well, get used to it because we're going to be saying Sekihaten Kyoken a lot. I only know it because Gundam Battle Assault, that actually was the finishing move of Burning Gundam, was Sekihaten Kyoken. Except they said it really slow. It was really weird. They said it like this: Sekihaten Kyoken. Like, and then and watching the series for the first time and actually hearing it, where he says it like Sekiha Ten Kyoken, and I'm like, that's not how that's said. That sounds weird. And now, no, this is the actual way that you're supposed to say it. So, that kind of wraps things up with the Sekihaten Kyoken. Domon and Master kind of decide to wait to fight each other until Lantau Island for the Battle Royale. But while this has been going on, back at the Neo-Japan consulate, unfortunately, Chairman Corrado receives bad news. A resignation letter from Rain. So she has resigned from being Domon's partner from here on in. And this shocks everybody, including Dr. Mikamura, who didn't expect this. And, it kind of leads into the next episode. But final thoughts on the Ultimate Attack duel with Master Asia.
I will just never get the whole thing with between Domon and Master Asia. Just like one moment they're like,
yeah,
mortal enemies here, and next they're like
this
Master
is a bad example, but it's kind of like the one girlfriend who keeps going back to the abusive boyfriend because one day he'll change. That's kind of what's happening here. It's just like, Domon, you know he's evil, but you keep going back. He's my master. He's in there somewhere.
Not to mention, it's like Master Asia's like it's like, are you gonna be like feeling bad for him, and now you guys are gonna get back to being like master and apprentice sort of thing, and then all of a sudden
they kind of start doing that, yeah.
And then it's gonna be a 180, and then they're back. It's like, you guys
make up your mind.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of like one of those things where it's like, will you guys just make up your mind what side
now you
guys
understand a lot of the turns in Kingdom Hearts where I'm like, make up your damn mind already! It's okay, I had G Gundam first. I was used to that. But also Rain resigning as a result of Domon's behavior, or Domon lashing out at her. Like, is that a bit too far?
Well, I'll
tell you, anybody who was watching this for the first time who was shipping Domon and Rain were probably heartbroken at this moment, because that kind of clenches things that they're not going to end up together by the end of this.
I think it's just one of those things that, if Domon was really that mad at her, I wouldn't blame her for just like, okay, I'm just going to put my resignation.
Is that what you do? Like, if I came down on you that hard, would that be your reaction?
Probably.
All right.
I mean,
so make sure to keep those feelings deep inside so that I don't then get approached with divorce papers. You guys heard it. No, I'm kidding. As far as the score, though, this one's hard because you can tell it's building up to other things. But it also has a lot of things that make you kind of question. Because you were kind of bringing it up. Can Domon and Master finally choose, like, what they are? And then you also have, like, okay, Wong is willing to kill his Gundam fighter. Wouldn't that mean by default he loses?
I almost want to say, like, a 3.5, but...
I'm kind of there.
It just seems like, it's not like one...
I would give it a 4, but that's just because I like the whole montage that happens with the Sekihaten Kyoken. And even though it is silly as hell to see that horse don a fight suit, the whole thing setting up to it was pretty awesome for a montage. Like, you got the burning Gundam coming out of the ocean, which is awesome. And then you had the Master Gundam out of nowhere, but then you have the platform and it turns into a horse. And so there's so much cool encapsulated in that moment that it's like, okay, I can give it a 4.
Well, yeah, I guess...
Because the music is what tied it all together, honestly.
Yeah, I guess probably a 4 would be... Probably.
I don't know. I mean, stick with your score. I don't care. But, like, for me, who I've always loved, like, fighting anime and things like that, like, this did everything it could possibly do to hype me, kind of thing.
I mean, just the whole thing between, it's like Master Asia and Domon are acting like if they were, like, some kind of a couple or something. They're like... they're like,
it's the odd couple, Domon.
It's just kind of like...
No, we still need the episode to be It's a Horse, of course, Dormon.
It's like... If Master Asia hated Domon that much, why would he go waste his time going way over there just to... Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine how hard this would get if they were both on Facebook? Master Asia changes his relationship status to in doubt. What?
It just seems like he's now like reconsidering on being on the side with
but you kind of
Wong, and now he's like, well, I'm gonna just change my mind and go help Domon.
That's what I'm saying. Like the change in Master is a little bit more understandable than Domon, because you can see Wong just kind of betraying Master and not really working with him. And so Master might look at that as going, well, I still think we ought to go with Domon, so I'm going to make Domon stronger. And maybe that'll convince Wong, kind of thing.
It just kind of makes you kind of wonder, okay, now what is Master Asia trying to prove now, you know? Because it seems like it's like he can't make up his mind where he wants to be anymore.
Well, would it comfort you to know, I'm not going to spoil it for you, obviously. Well, yeah. But would it comfort you to know that all of this is building up towards something?
Because it now makes it sound, like Wong is like the more of the threat of this whole thing than Master Asia was at the beginning, you know?
Yeah, and they're kind of making Master out to be like the middle guy now.
Yeah, because it just seems like...
Even though we kind of know better, because we know that like Master is associated with the Dark Gundam kind of thing. But I kind of agree with you, where we know exactly where Wong Yunfa stands, where we didn't know that before. Now Master's looking kind of gray. Well, not his hair, people. Morally, he's looking gray. Yeah,
because it's like at the very, very beginning, it's like you think Kyoji was the culprit behind everything, and you think now Master Asia's here.
But then Master comes in, he's super evil, and he's like, oh, wait, but you're not the villain anymore.
Yeah, and then it makes it look like Kyoji was never as big as Master Asia was, and now here's Wong.
And he's trying to take the title.
It's like...
I get what you're saying here. It's like the villains are playing King of the Mountain in this series.
It's like everyone's like...
First it was Mikkolo, and then it was the Dark Gundam, and then it was Master Asia, and then it was Wong. Yeah, I can kind of see where you're going there.
It's just mine. So I'm like, okay, you guys, now Master Asia's going to be like, okay, let's just forget our squabble never happened. Let's get back and be like master and pupil all over.
All of a sudden, Martin Lawrence comes out of nowhere, and he's like, why can't we all just get along?
And I'm pretty sure Domo's like, okay, I'm confused as you. Let's just move on.
Let's just do it. All right, and then we move on into the last episode that we had, which was the Ruthless Fight, Schwartz's last match. This is something I neglected to mention in the previous episode, but is important here. Is that Master and Wong are having their little confrontation about Allenby being the better candidate. He then, Wong lets Master know who Domon will be up against next, which is going to be Schwarzbruder of Neo Germany. And they also add in a nice little fact that doesn't really get talked about in this episode, but I think it should have been, is that both Schwartz and Domon are undefeated. All of their matches have been victories. And Schwartz didn't make the bold promise that Domon did. So at that point, he's like, ooh, Schwartz also has an undefeated record. Huh, this is going to be an interesting fight. Well, as soon as the fight begins, we find out that Wong is still pissed, and he wants Domon to lose. Except, it doesn't really look like a fight is going to do it here, because they're both undefeated. So... I like to call this Wong Yunfa channeling his inner Vince McMahon, because he just decides, well, pal, if neither of you are gonna lose, then I'll make you lose for me. Because he then decides, okay, we need to ensure that there is a loser. And so his answer to this is, well, I'll just line the arena with bombs.
Well, don't they have a chance?
Did Wong Yufa play Super Smash Brothers before he came up with this idea? Because that's what happens in new Super Smash Brothers. If you go too long in a tiebreaker match, bombs just start dropping. And it's like, one must die, and whoever dies first wins, or loses. But yeah, he basically decides to line an arena with like 50,000 bombs, as well as a barbed wire arena that is electrified.
I don't know why people would just...
They have 5 minutes to win. They have 5 minutes, and then everything explodes, and then it doesn't matter because everybody loses.
I thought it was 10 minutes.
I thought it was 5.
I don't know.
It might have been 15. I don't know.
But
all I saw was a giant RX-78.
I can't imagine any Gundam fighter would be willing to put their lives on the line to a ring like that.
I don't know if I'm going to sign that waiver. You have to, pal. You have to, or I'm going to take your Twitch account.
I'd be like, is it really worth going?
But, I mean, my nation paid all this money for this Gundam. Too bad, pal!
Jeez, then they better have nothing left to lose to go into the fight like that.
Yes. So, Domon and Schwartz have already kind of resolved things. Like, they're going to fight to their best and all that. But the episode tends to follow a little bit more of Rain in this, because now that Rain's resigned, she's kind of trying to figure out where she's going to go from here on. Because she's obviously not going back to Neo Japan or she's not going back to the colony, but she's trying to make things work in Neo Hong Kong right now. Probably because she didn't think about, oh wait, I'm not getting paid anymore. Oops. Moving on. But I will address one thing that does happen in between this before we progress the plot. While Corrado and Domon and Mikamura are all looking for Rain out there in a limo, something very interesting happens in an exchange between Domon and Dr. Mikamura. And I want to see if you actually noticed it, because it's very subtle. And when I watched it the first time, I didn't notice it. I didn't even notice it until my third time. But they're out in a limo trying to look for... First of all, like, you went out running, Domon, to go find Allenby. Why are you looking in a limo for Rain? Where he's still very pissed at Rain because she wasn't taking care of Allenby and all that. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Dr. Mikamura says something along the lines of, and this is why you can't trust a Kashu. And he looks angry when he says that. And Domon's basically like, you said something, and Mikamura immediately kind of backs off. That's a very interesting thing to say, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
Why you can't trust a Kashu. Huh.
Especially if you're working with them.
Uh-huh. And you gave one your prototype Shining Gundam. And your dad and him have been friends for a long time. Very intriguing. I just want to point that out there. And so they kind of give up on the search, and Rain is just kind of aimlessly wandering around until she ends up at the hangar for Shadow Gundam. Seriously, do they not have guards posted at these hangars? Like, do tour groups just go in and take selfies next to the Gundams? Like, nobody's guarding this thing? So she goes in and comes across Schwartz, who politely, as a ninja, decides to serve her coffee.
Well, at first she thought she saw Kyoji just walking.
Well, but she's also in a daze, so at that point, like, she could have been seeing anything at that point.
But
I just find it funny. I'm a ninja. I will serve you coffee now.
That's what drove her to go walking in there.
Everything about Schwartz is so not ninja. It's just like, what the hell? As a ninja, I will discreetly pour you a cup of coffee. Where they actually get into a conversation about how she resigned and their last, like, her and Domon's last exchange and all that. And so Schwartz is, like, just basically trying to listen to her and trying to empathize with her, and then all of a sudden he starts from what we're guessing, he's basically giving his assessment of Domon's personality from the time that he's had to train with him in the Yana Highlands. But he's also kind of giving off a feeling of he knows a lot more about Domon than he's letting on. And what's interesting about this, is we kind of mentioned throughout other podcasts, is Domon and Rain have this weird reaction to Schwartz sometimes, where he seems way too familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Way too familiar and warm is exactly what gets said. And so at that point, Schwartz kind of sees the problem that Rain is facing right now and offers her a solution. But we don't know what it is because we're going to cut to the next scene, where we actually have a little bit of a Shuffle Alliance Council scene happening, but it's also planned around. So the operation for Andrew was a success, but he is
going back. He's
going back to Neo Canada, but they kind of make it sound like he's very seriously injured and he won't be able to fight anytime soon. One of the things I found interesting is that in the subtitles, they kind of hinted at he wouldn't be able to fight anymore. So like, I wonder if Bandai like kind of tried to soften the blow a little bit with the dub and say like, well, he's only injured, he's just got to go train. But instead the subtitles actually say like, he can't do this anymore. Like he's lost this career kind of thing. And so they begin to strategize and say like, well, we're all going to the Battle Royale. We all know what to expect from Master Asia. And we know that the Dark Gundam is probably going to be there in the Battle Royale. And out of nowhere, as if summoned by a torrent and a water tornado, Schwartz Bruder comes out to declare his challenge to Domon Kashu. That he must defeat him. He must win, or he will not stand a chance against the Dark Gundam. To which Domon's like, well, I will beat you because I have learned everything that I need to learn. I'm awesome. Oh, but now you have a new obstacle to overcome, Domon, for meet my partner. And we have to talk about this for a minute. It's Rain, except now she's in full Schwartz Bruder gear. But it's also like measured so it looks like her original outfit, but she's wearing a mask like Schwartz. We'll get to that in a minute. And then it looks like she is wearing a trench coat that goes all the way down to her skirt and then kind of forms the skirt kind of thing. So she looks like she is the partner of Neo Germany. What the fuck did you think about this?
Well,
I love one of the things that pissed you off the most is like, why is her hair sticking out?
it probably would have been better if you just saw maybe the bangs, but not like all the hair.
Well, you do see the bangs, but I think they did way more of the bangs than they probably should have.
Well, yeah, but the rest of her hair, it just seems like, sheesh, it probably would have been better if they, covered the back with just the mask.
But they didn't. But you could see the back of her hair.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But she's wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And then you have the trench coat that looks appropriately like her original outfit. What, did Schwartz just have that waiting in a closet somewhere?
Apparently so.
Did he know that Rain would join his team? This implicates a lot of weird things.
Yeah.
Seriously, no comment about the overall outfit?
No.
Like, I know you were shocked when you saw that. You're just like, what? But the only problem you had was the mask?
Well, what was wrong with the rest of the outfit?
I'm just finding it funny that, he's in a full-on trench coat, and he just so happens to have one for her that is basically measured exactly to her original outfit.
He could have just made it.
Apparently, Rain really loves tight tube skirts.
Yeah.
Because that's all she'll ever wear. Even though it gets her into trouble. Cough, cough, panty shot, cough, cough. So Domon is obviously shocked by this, but so are the other Shuffle Alliance members. So we then cut into the match. Oh, and by the way, all the time this is happening, Wong is kind of silently plotting that he's ready to show the Dark Gundam. And then we notice that down where the Dark Gundam is, there's a little pod. And Allenby's in there. So we now know where Allenby is. She's been kidnapped. And they're looking to do something with her and the Dark Gundam. And your theory about this is because in an earlier episode, we saw Kyoji's body in there, but it's trashed. So you're guessing that basically she's going to become the pilot of it, right? It
was either she would or he was going to use her as bait.
And either one could work here.
Yeah.
So we then cut to the match between DOMON and Schwartz. And immediately, this isn't necessarily about Schwartz and DOMON anymore. It's about Rain. And it's very clearly about Rain. Because DOMON is so pissed that he's just like, I'll do this on my own. I don't need anybody. Now, Neo Japan does require him to have a partner. And so they do assign him a partner, which is one of the other technicians that is working on the Burning Gundam, as well as a new Gundam that is in their harbor that they've said is for Major Ulube. Did you notice that? No. It was the red Gundam that was in there.
Oh.
And it's called Rising Gundam. So at that point, it's like, okay, so she was working on that one as well as Burning Gundam. And she's very much a technician. She speaks very technical. And that kind of annoys the crap out of DOMON. And it gets worse because while he's getting his butt handed to him by Schwartz, she tries to offer encouraging advice, but she's not Rain. And DOMON's not happy about it, and he's just telling her to shut up. And he's telling Corrado to shut up, and he's like, I'll just do this on my own. All the while, Schwartz is kind of screaming that, oh, now you're back to your old ways again.
He's like, I'm going to steal your lunch money.
And then he starts stealing his lunch money. He gets away with a good portion of it, too. But he's kind of right. Like, one of the problems in the Guiana Highlands was not just because he relied too much on the super mode, but he thought he had to do it alone. Like, remember, that was a big problem with DOMON. And I kind of think one of the other things Schwartz was trying to teach him is not only with a serene state of mind, but with your friends, you can win. You know, through the power of friendship and the heart of the cards, as we say. And so the fight continues to go one-sided towards Schwartz. He then pulls out the ultimate attack of the Shadow Gundam, which is, if everybody remembers from the previous episode, it's like this. He basically becomes the Tasmanian devil. He's swirling around. I can't even remember what they called it. It actually, and I want to applaud it because it actually does have a German name to it.
I still love it when he jumped on.
Oh crap!
What was it?
It's like Strongprong or something like that, or Sturmdrang is what it's called. And it's like, wow, it actually has a German name. Wow, holy crap! Because we haven't heard, like, you know, Rose Hurricane isn't said in French. Saisaishi isn't speaking Chinese when he's doing all of his stuff. But no, this one actually had a German name, Sturmdrang. And so he's bouncing all around the arena like the Tasmanian devil would.
I love it when he
seriously, I want to get video of that and just put the Tasmanian devil with it because it's just so stupid.
And landing on Burning Gundam's hand or something.
Well, he lands on his back a couple of times and just starts kicking him in the back. But then, well,
yeah, but he was balancing on.
Oh yeah, there was a point where, and that was actually hilarious. He's balancing on like the middle finger of DOMON's Burning Gundam's hand. So DOMON decides to answer this with a Burning Gundam, except there's a problem. For some reason, the hyper mode circuits got switched around, and it actually paralyzes DOMON.
How on earth did that ever happen?
I know, right? With the technician? Like, she's supposed to be the best. She didn't see that.
Especially...
And she's even saying, like, this can't be fixed right now. Like, they have to take the whole arm apart to fix it. And so he's paralyzed. And Schwartz is just bouncing around the arena and continuing to damage him. And it looks like things are basically in DOMON's favor. Except this entire time, Rain has been conflicted. She's working for Neo Germany, but she's worried about when Domon takes a hit. And she's worried when this happens, especially since she knows what is causing it, and she knows how to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And so she does the unthinkable and betrays Schwartz. And somehow I think Schwartz kind of expected her to do that. She actually guides Domon through the process, through the Neo Germany console, of how to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And so Domon fixes it, and then promptly applies a Sekiha Ten Kyoken Burning Finger to Shadow Gundam. But it's too late, because they've taken too much time, and the bombs explode. Da, 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 da. Nah, I'm kidding. They're both there. Domon and Rain just kind of run to... Well, this is the best part about this. Domon gets out of the Gundam to go see if Shadow Gundam's okay, to see if Schwartz is okay. Then Rain comes down off the console to go run towards Domon, and he's like, Rain! And then they go and hug, and they're like, I'm so sorry, I yelled at you. And then... Oh, wait, Schwartz!
Yeah.
Everybody forgot Schwartz. Poor Schwartz.
Well, Rain's like, well, I think the only person who was looking out for you the most was Schwartz. And he's like, oh yeah!
Wait, Schwartz!
Like
That's an anime way of doing that. And then, while it looks like Schwartz is very badly injured, and so he's getting hauled off in a stretcher by the first aid team. But then in order to administer CPR to him or something like that, they decide to take off his mask. And we have a huge revelation. Schwartz Bruder is Kyoji Kashu? What? What? And Kyoji is offering inspiring words to Domon while being hauled off. And once again, Domon's like, Kyoji, no! Wait, you killed him in the Guiana Highlands. I know, but...
We're like, what?
Seriously, their relationship's like Thor and Loki. It's like, I love you, but I don't love you. But then I love you, but then I don't love you. But then I want to hug you, but then I want to kill you.
Yes.
And what makes it even weirder is they also have another moment while they're fighting where where Schwartz tries to encourage Domon by reminding him of that day. We're like, what? And it goes back to a memory of Kyoji walking over a really rickety wooden bridge with Domon on top of him. So, like, piggyback. And Domon is freaking out, but Kyoji's like, it's okay, you can just have faith in me. Look forward. You'll see mom and dad, and you're gonna be just fine. And it's kind of a really inspiring moment, but it's just like, how would you know that until we get the Kyoji reveal? We also find out something very interesting about that memory because we see a young Rain with what looks like a Kodak camera, and she takes the picture that Domon's been using.
That has been carrying around.
Yeah. So that's an interesting thing to throw in, right? But yeah, we kind of need to talk about this. I'm not going to give the details or anything like that, but a couple of episodes ago, you had a very interesting theory about Schwartz Bruder.
Mm-hmm.
How does it feel to be right?
I'm just surprised.
Like go into this. Like, so you're happy to be right. I get that, but what happened when you saw the mask get taken off and you got confirmed right? Like, what was going on in your head?
I was like, I had a gut feeling that there was something more to it, especially with how many times...
I'm calling bullcrap. In your head, you were probably going, called it! Called it! Called it! Go ahead, sorry.
No, because, I mean, how many times Rain was like, there's something weird about him, like I know him.
Yeah, we've been having these familiarity, like, he's warm and familiar, and Domon and Rain are both saying it. And who would know better than the people who hung around Kyoji, which would be Domon and Rain. I'm kind of surprised. Well, I guess I'm not surprised Dr. Mikamura didn't see it because he hasn't really had access to Schwartz. So at that point, he wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But Yeah, so we don't know why Kyoji's there, but he's getting hauled off, and it's kind of hinted that the next episode we're going to get a lot of answers as to why Schwartz has been following Domon, or why Kyoji has been following Domon. And another question I think that needs to be answered is, why does Master know Domon, or know Kyoji? Like, did he also train under Master Asia? Like, why would he know who he is?
I would think maybe Master would know about Kyoji, but I didn't.
Probably through contact with the Dark Gundam.
Well, not just that, but maybe, since he knew that he was related to Domon.
Maybe, but it's not really hinted in the series that he knows anything of Domon's family. He just picked up this wayward pupil one day and decided to train him, and it just so happened to be Domon Kashu. So at that point, I guess the assumed one that we can all go with is that he met him in Shinjuku when he came into contact with the Dark Gundam, and so that's why he could recognize him. He's like, oh, you're the pilot of the Dark Gundam. Why are you here? Because the Dark Gundam's over there. But you're over here. But Dark Gundam's over there.
Yeah.
This is the cartoon moment where you have like multiple arms pointing at multiple directions. And so yeah, we have a huge reveal at that point that Schwartz has been Kyoji Kashu this entire time. And another question that has to be asked is, Kyoji knows martial arts? I thought he was a researcher like his dad.
That's the only thing.
Right? There's a lot of questions here. Like, how would he know anything about a martial artist? Because the only thing we know about Kyoji is that he worked with his dad. We know that there's a significant age divide between Kyoji and Domon, probably by 10 plus years. And so at that point, I don't know, maybe he could have learned martial arts.
But then you would have to question, what was he doing with getting involved with like Neo Germany stuff,
Like, how'd that happen? Is there even a person called Schwartz Bruder? Like, I'm guessing Shadow Gundam is a Neo Germany Gundam. So did Schwartz steal it? Or just, sorry, I keep on calling him that, but did Kyoji steal it? What happened there?
Yeah, I don't know.
So it's kind of hinted that the next episode will have all of these reveals and more. But let's go ahead and do our final thoughts for The Ruthless Fight, Schwartz's last match.
I'm going to give it a 5.
Yeah, it's up there with me. I will say that I'm going to give it a 4.5, and the only reason I'm going to do it is because the build up to it is a little slow, especially with the whole, what am I going to do? It's almost like I didn't think about, set aside some money so I can take a ship back to the colony. Because she's wandering around aimlessly, what am I going to do? And that's kind of annoying, but then, we have that hilarious moment of Schwartz Ninja pouring her a cup of coffee. And
yeah,
also, obviously, the outfit reveal is just... Oh, and by the way, I don't know if you noticed this. She threw the mask off, right? No holes. Aside from the ones that Schwartz has. So you were expecting that there was going to be holes for the hair. Nope.
I know.
Her hair was apparently just too spiky. It could not be contained. What do you think of that? Like, there's no holes for the hair.
Jeez, it makes it.
I think I made Andrea's head explode.
Makes you think of Batwoman's cowl, not being able to contain the hair.
Yeah.
So, it's like,
So, I don't know if you noticed that before, but like she took the mask off, and yeah, there's no other holes.
It looks just intact.
It just looks intact. It looks like she borrowed it from Schwartz.
It just looks like if she could have pulled off Schwartz's mask.
And it was a substitution jutsu all along. Schwartz is actually Schwartz's partner. That would be a joke worthy of Naruto. Actually, I would love that.
She'd be like, "Oops,
I've had a partner all along."
Oops, I pulled the wrong mask off.
Wait, I pulled too low. Oh crap, panties. Sorry, I had to make the joke. The tight skirt. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4.5. You're giving it a 5. Because the build up for me is a little slow, but wow, what a payoff. Like, the match is good. There's intense emotion going on with it. You can even feel it with Master, because he's invested in this match too, to see who will actually win it. And it looks like Shadow Gundam is probably eliminated. So at that point, it's not like Shadow Gundam is probably going to show up at the Battle Royale. Obviously, Kyoji's injured, so we don't know what that's going to do to things. But yeah, so that's the final thoughts on that one. Let's get into our last questions before we wrap things up. So the best episode of these four. I don't have to think about it. It's Sai Saishi's new Attack Blazing Dragon Gundam. Because, look, as cool as the Schwartz battle is, it just doesn't hold a candle to Sai Saishi's. To me, at the very least. Because if you look at Schwartz's battle, it is kind of one-sided. Whereas Sai Saishi's fight was not. It was even all the way down until, arms started getting blown up. Even without arms, it still looked even. So at that point, like, I'm going to put that as my best episode there. What about you?
I mean, even though I think that was a pretty good battle, but I mean, I do love the last episode just because it
because it proves you right.
No, not just because that, but it just feels like even though they were supposed to have a fight match, but it seems like he was still trying to train DOMON to be prepared to get ready to fight the Dark Gundam, and he needs every ounce of support, and he should not be thick-headed and trying to use every angle of being able to say, okay, well, this is your flaw. If you're,
So your favorite here is the ruthless fight, Schwartz's last match?
Pretty much.
Okay. What is the worst episode? And that's hard because none of these episodes are bad by any, like, we've had clear losers in previous times, but this one had 4 really good, really compelling episodes. So, like, we basically have to say which one was the least good of them. For me, it's going to be Domon versus Argo Charging Bolt Gundam, because it irritates me so hard. We had these amazing fights between the other 3 Shuffle Alliance members, and Argo got cast aside in his own damn episode. And yes, people are going to say, like, well, they still did the fight. Yeah, but it wasn't the focus. And 80% of the episode were like, oh, it's a tag match. Fuck. Nothing like this happened with Chimney, George, or Sai Saishi. And we just came off the heels of an amazing Sai Saishi episode. So, to me, it's Domon versus Argo, Charging Bolt Gundam. What about you?
I'm just gonna say probably my least favorite out of the 4 was probably just the whole thing with, Master Asia and...
Okay, so the Ultimate Attack duel with Master Asia.
Yeah, I mean, it's great and all, but... I mean, even though...
It has problems.
But sure that Domon and
But Andrea, horse in a fight suit! No, I'm kidding.
I know. But still, even though Argo didn't get the greatest fights, but...
Wow, I just had a really weird thought. What if we had that awkward moment like we do with Rain, where the fight suit starts to blend into the horse's butt? Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I mean, just because they didn't have the greatest fight, like, compared to the other 3, but at least they had a Gundam fight.
They did, in fact. So it's interesting that we're both divided on this one. So what was the craziest moment of these episodes?
The craziest?
Yes.
Let's see. There's probably a couple of dozen stuff.
It's a tie for me. I have 2 really favorite moments in this particular set.
The craziest one? How does a horse get a freaking fight suit?
Okay, you mentioned one of them. The horse in the fight suit. I kind of figured that was going to be like your what moment. Because, like, why does the horse get a fight suit?
Why does it need a fight suit?
But the other one I have to mention is what I mentioned earlier with the Domon versus Argo episode, where Bolt Gundam stands up while holding Grizzly Gundam and throws it off.
It looks like it's like a baby
Because
hug.
physics. Why do we have to explain them?
Why is it acting like it's a baby holding onto another?
Yeah, pretty much. But this is millions of tons of metal. There are all kinds of reasons why Argo should not be able to do this, but he's doing it. And that's why it's hilarious to me. You don't see that insanity in the UFC. You only see it in G Gundam, mother effers. So that's my crazy moment. Funniest moment in this. I'm probably gonna take away yours, but Rain's reveal in Schwartz outfit. Oh my gosh, that was so stupid. That was so freaking stupid, but go ahead.
I'm still trying to think of that one.
Oh yeah, dude, I love that moment.
I still love the whole Sasaishi crashing and the bike goes.
And then the big old walk on his back hits him in the head and he loses everything. That's also a good moment. That's very Looney Tunesy.
It's either that or the Schwartz offering coffee. And he's like,
yes.
And he's standing there. Shh.
Come here, Rain. Come here. Let me give you some comfort. Here's some SpaghettiOs and some coffee.
He just stands there like, poor. It's like you don't have to stand like no.
So at that point, that pretty much wraps things up for this episode. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. We have only 8 episodes left in the series. So when we come back, we are going to be starting up the final battle royale at Lantau Island to determine who will be the Gundam of Gundams. So look forward to that. In the meantime, make sure to support this podcast via YouTube, where the episodes are currently hosted. If you guys want it to stay there, you have to get it out there. You have to spread the word. I'm doing that. You need to do that too. Spread the word. Get people to listen to this, especially since we're getting so close to the end. Make sure to do that, as well as be able to support the RSS feed that it's going to be on, which is geekynro.libsyn.com. And if you guys like this podcast, make sure to leave a thumbs up. Make sure to let us know that you like it so that we know to do it more in the future. And as for me and Andrea, we will see you guys next time. Until then, it's time for the Gundam Fight Final Battle Royale!
Ready?
Go!